your home for Northeast Ohio soccer. This is Breaking Lanes.
Welcome back to the Breaking Lanes podcast. I'm your host, Logan Congrove, and joining me today is Julia Csernyik, a new NARP in the world of soccer, but has had a very illustrious career in terms of the game of soccer and some things outside of that, which we'll definitely touch on. Julia, thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited. This will be
Absolutely.
A lot of fun.
This one's been a long time coming, probably since 2023, college. Julia's a hard person to get a hold of, so
True.
This will be a good one for you guys.
I've been moving all over the place, though, too, to be completely fair.
Oh, for sure. Julia, take us through what brought you to the game of soccer. I always ask everybody that to start the podcast off.
Oh, man. What brought me to soccer? Way to really just hit you deep with the
Nice
first one. I know. So I started playing when I was 3 at down the road in Cuyahoga Falls, the little youth rec league. My parents honestly just signed me up for it as hey, this is what you're going to do. We're just going to throw you in every sport. That's something that my parents really emphasized. I probably did just about every sport you could think of growing up, between coach pitch, soccer. I did lacrosse for a little bit too, basketball. Really just a nice variety, but it was kind of just the one sport that always stuck. I went all the way through the Stowe Youth Program, had great coaches through there. And as I decided to start to take it a little bit more seriously, I'd say I was probably 11, 12 years old. And ironically, my freshman year soccer coach, head coach, was the one who directed me to actually play club. And he was like, you're either going to go to one of two places if you're going to take this series eventually. You're either going to end up at internationals or you're going to end up at CFC. Which since now CFC's gone, it's I think part of Force now.
Merged with Force.
But at the time it was also a huge club, and I ended up kind of dipping my feet in. I went to Everest, which was I think also based out of Hudson at the time. I played there for a year, and then from there I did my tryout at internationals and decided that this was something that I wanted to take seriously. And by the time I hit 7th, 8th grade, soccer was the only sport I was playing.
What was the first position that you played that you can remember?
I can remember. Man, that's hard. I would say the most memorable thing I did as a kid in terms of position is I loved Hope Solo. I thought she was the coolest person ever. So one of my first jersey numbers I ever picked was 1, thinking I'd be a goalkeeper. Really funny now because my sister's the one that's a goalkeeper and I very much am not a goalkeeper at all. It's the one position that I didn't play in college. But in terms of positions, I've always been somebody that's moved all over the field. I've never had where I'm pinned into one position, which is a blessing and a curse. I really liked that I was versatile, but at the same time, it also has some drawbacks because I never truly got to specialize in one spot. Season to season, I would play a different position, especially in club and college.
Do you think it's harder to adapt to that type of style of play?
Yes and no. I think with playing all over the place, it's also given me the ability to adapt as well. So I've played a bunch of different playing styles, but mostly possession-based.
Absolutely. So talk a little bit about, we're heading into your college years. You played club in high school for the most part, correct?
I played 2 years at Stowe. I played my freshman and sophomore year. And then after I made my college commitment, I made the decision to play club instead, just because the club program that internationals had at the time was, I thought, really beneficial. The point that my club coaches always made was if you're going to go and play at some of the highest levels of college soccer, you need to be able to compete with some of the levels of college soccer now. So we actually went and played Division II and Division III college teams a lot, which was, I thought, super cool. And it gave me a lot of confidence going into my freshman year, just knowing that I'd be able to hang and compete with older girls.
What did you think the internationals did for you specifically before your college commitment that really propelled the rest of your career?
I think the one thing that the club emphasizes is just being prepared. I think that it is an environment that allowed me to feel ready. I didn't feel like a complete fish out of water my freshman year of college, which was super beneficial just because I knew the environment, I knew the prestige. I know some people didn't have just even the little things that would be done, but that I had at club, we all would have to be matching when we would travel. Shirts would be tucked in, just little things that don't seem like a huge part that honestly, looking back, I really appreciated having that because I think it just helped in college fine tune a lot of things for me.
Who were your coaches that you really cling on to at internationals that kind of helped push you in that direction?
So I had a lot of coaches at internationals, and I think part of that goes through the journey that I had there. I was not somebody who always played ECNL. I didn't make my first ECNL roster until my sophomore year of high school.
Oh, wow.
So I played in one pre-ECNL game, and the coach at the time was Carrie Sarver, and she looked at me and she said, "You have some work to do." I knew that. She knew that. Everybody knew that. And she was somebody that was a big figurehead at the club, still is now, and that I do have a lot of respect for because she's a heart coach. And I don't think that you get places without having a little bit of tough love. So I had her, Drofko. Anybody who's played at internationals knows that that man is a living legend. Again, just somebody who is, I'd say, a lot of tough love. But it got me to where I'm at today. And another huge coach that I had, he's now down in Georgia, was Jared Rose. He was my MRL director. He kind of started at the club around the time I did and really grew into the position he's at. And now I believe he's down south coaching at a Division III school.
Awesome.
Which is really cool.
The college recruiting process is obviously very different for everybody. Your whole college career is one of the most interesting I think I've seen out of anybody.
Yeah.
So talk about you're looking for your initial school. You ended up committing to Kent State to start off. Talk about that process. What brought you to Kent and how did that go? How did you use internationals to help you? Who pushed you to be able to make that commitment?
So as you said, which is so true now, the college recruiting landscape is so different. June 15th didn't exist at all. That was not a thing. I knew girls that were committing as young as their freshman year to go play college soccer. There really wasn't as many regulations or anything like that. And I did most of my recruiting, I would say, prior to me making my first ECNL roster. I was going to a lot more of local showcases, communicating with coaches, and a lot of the coaches in the area local. Like I mentioned, a big reason why I played club would be because of Rob Marinero. He was my coach freshman year. And obviously I only played the program for a year. But there were so many things that I learned, and I am very grateful for the experiences that I had there. It just wasn't the right fit for me. Sure. And that's fine. And that's going to happen because I was 16 when I made the decision that I was going to go there. I probably should have. I think that June 15th is a good thing now. I think that you should have to wait a little bit longer.
Sure.
Because soccer aside, I changed my major. I had so many other things, and then COVID, whole other thing going on. I honestly felt that after that year, I just needed a fresh start. But going back to the recruiting process, I did a lot of my base work when I wasn't on the ECNL team, going to the local showcases and just communicating with coaches. But what really propelled it was that I finally did make my first roster. We had a couple of friendlies I played well in. I was somebody who always would be in the group but wouldn't get rostered. And I finally made my first roster, made my first showcase event in Sanford, Florida that year. And I ended up playing probably some of the best soccer I've ever played in my life at that point. And I started getting interest from coaches at schools that I never thought were even a possibility. And everything just kind of circled back to I knew that I wanted to stay close to home. At the time, that's what seemed right.
Sure.
And ultimately, I made the decision. I believe it was April 19th of 2018, I think, is when I made my commitment to Kent. And at the time, it seemed like the right option for me. And honestly, the coaching staff there was fantastic at dealing with all of my questions and just giving me the opportunity as well.
When you made your commitment initially, what were some of the things that sold you on college soccer as a whole? Some people they know when their time is done. Obviously, you played as long as you possibly could. You're still trying to play. What sold you on college soccer, the landscape of college soccer?
Honestly, I made the decision when I was 13, when I wanted to take soccer more seriously and go to a more competitive club environment, that this was something that I wanted to work for and something that I wanted to do, because I would say something I've done a lot of is prove people wrong and persevere, adapt, overcome. And I knew that that was something that would be difficult to achieve. It's not something that everybody gets to go say that they were a part of something like that. So just honestly, the environment, and really, I just couldn't see myself not playing in college more so than anything.
Right.
So I think that that's kind of what drove me into playing.
What did it feel like to commit?
It was crazy. Honestly, I still was kind of I had my visit, I think, the day before, and I didn't commit then. My parents were actually shocked by that. They thought that I was going to say yes there, because at that point, I had gone on 3 or 4 visits. It was my second visit at Kent, so they, I think, kind of knew. They were the local coaches that I grew up. They've always seen me play, so it just felt like the right opportunity for me. And I don't know. Like, honestly, it just felt surreal. I think is the best way to put it. It's a really exciting thing to go and do.
And then obviously you get to your first year at Kent and it is COVID. Talk about that experience. There's very few people that can understand the experience. Obviously you graduate high school in 2020. I graduated with you from Stowe. I get it. We graduated in a parking lot.
Which honestly, in terms of COVID graduations,
wasn't too bad.
Could have been worse.
It wasn't too bad.
Could have been
It wasn't too bad. Once you were done, you just went back to your car.
Yep.
It was not.
Wait, the shortest. Actually, no. My undergrad graduation was shorter than that, but one of the shortest graduations.
It was super short.
It was short.
In and out.
No complaints on that.
No complaints at all.
Yeah, COVID and college sports was honestly a whirlwind. I still feel like some of the stuff we had to do like wasn't even real. We'd have to practice in masks. We were only allowed 9 of us in the locker room on our team at a time because of COVID guidelines. We had these giant like plexi like dividers in between each of the lockers. And I was a corner locker. My number was 6 my freshman year. So these dividers, very inconvenient. I could barely get into any of my stuff, which was fine. And the COVID testing, I confidently feel like I never got COVID that year just because I was getting tested 3 to 4 times a week. We would have to go in to get cleared for the day. So we would wake up, go to the testing center, get that taken care of, get our results back. We did rapids every day, it felt like. Wow. And then you were cleared and you could go to practice. But it really impacted the soccer season because we didn't play that fall. You go in expecting to go play in the fall. Right. That didn't happen. Then we were just very short numbers wise in terms of injuries and just like a whole bunch of other stuff. COVID as a whole, like we had a couple girls my freshman year get sick in the dorms. What took all of us out? We weren't allowed to practice. So when you're down an entire class of students who can't even practice now, you're not practicing. Just the numbers at practice, it just was an absolute mess. And my team there was also, we had a decent number of internationals. So for them to even get over across the border from Canada was huge because there was no guarantee that they were even going to be able to come and stay. And it just honestly, from start to finish, very memorable experience, a lot of growth, but I am very happy that the NCAA gave us our year back because I would have been very sad if that counted towards my eligibility just because I think we had 3 or 4 games canceled my spring, like our actual season that we played just because people got sick. It was what was going on. So really nothing more that you could do about that.
Super stressful year, a lot going on with COVID. You mentioned that you just kind of felt it was time for a fresh start. When did you kind of come to that realization and who'd you talk to? How did you play into it might be time for me to switch schools?
I would honestly say it was November of my freshman year. I knew that it wasn't something I was going to immediately act on though. I wanted to see it through the spring, but also with it being the hometown school, I was 8 minutes from my dorm room. And I just feel like I never left my house. So everything from soccer completely aside, I just feel like I needed a complete change, especially with COVID, and just to kind of go out. And I think that the most growth that you can have as a person and as a player is to throw yourself into a completely new environment. And as the spring kind of progressed, I was like, you know what? No, this is something I think I'm going to do. And I spoke with my roommate at the time and I just was like, listen, like, both of us were kind of just like this. It was the nicest way to put it. It was a crap show. Like there was no like. It's crazy to even like think back on it because it just didn't feel like real life. No. After experiencing the years of college soccer I had after that, my freshman year, it just felt so strange. And I can only speak from my experience being a freshman, and that was the first like taste of college soccer I got. I couldn't imagine having played for a couple of years and then having that experience.
That's rough, yeah.
So my heart goes out to those players as well because I can only speak from my experience and what my school did during that time. And I know everybody's experience was completely different with that. So
when you were making the decision to transfer, what went into the schools you were looking at? You said you kind of wanted to get further away from home. You ended up at Youngstown State.
Which is not much further.
Which is not too much further.
It's an hour.
It's a little bit further.
An hour.
So what went into you choosing Youngstown State? What were those conversations like?
So Youngstown was a school that I had spoken to prior to committing to Kent. I knew going into the portal that I wanted to get in and out as quickly as possible just because I entered in April. We were going to have preseason in August. Right. I really didn't want to be messing around with trying to figure out where I was going to go too much, obviously to an extent, because I want to make sure it's going to be a good fit. But at the same time, you have housing, you have to take care of scheduling classes. There's just so many other elements that you have to worry about. And I really liked the school. I really liked the staff. I had one of my club teammates that was on the team at the time. They were looking for transfers. And honestly, it was a very quick, I think I entered the portal and within a week was on campus and had signed that I was going to be going there. And honestly, looking back at it, do I wish I had gone there from the start? Sometimes yes and sometimes no, because I do think that the experiences I had my freshman year were super important into shaping me into the person and player that I am today. I still have so many friends from that program, and like it wasn't a great fit for me at the time.
Right.
And I think that sometimes transferring can get frowned upon just because it's like, oh, you're transferring because of this, this, and this. Well, you haven't lived in my shoes. You don't know what reasons I'm choosing to go for. And it's across the board. And now with the NCAA is just going crazy. I can't even imagine being an athlete in it right now, just with the roster guidelines now. Like that's a whole other thing that's going to impact the sport. With the recruiting, my sister just went through the transfer portal because her school, that's a whole other thing that we can get into with NIL. But with her school announcing that they were going to drop down to Division III, she was like, wow, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what the future for the school is. She had to wait until May 1st to enter. That wasn't a thing when I went in either. So those little rules and nuances I'm not super familiar with that I've had to learn through her and other players that I'm grateful I didn't have to abide by that first time, just because I really just wanted to get in and out and get to a school that I could call home again. So, and what's crazy enough about Youngstown is it is only an hour from here, but it felt way further just because I feel like from our area, you can attest to this as well, Kent, Akron, Ohio State, Cleveland State, I feel like are the hot schools that people go to. Nobody goes to Youngstown, and it's an hour down the road. And honestly, after having been there for the time that I was there to finish my undergrad, I'm shocked. Like, I actually really enjoyed my time there. I just think it's a school that sometimes gets a little overlooked in the area just because we do have so many other amazing universities here. So
when you got on campus at Youngstown, what were some of the things that you really enjoyed right away? What was different from Kent that maybe you liked better about Youngstown?
I think that one thing that was very eye-opening to me, and it maybe was just because I had been to ID camps there, I had experienced the school, but actually going on my visit there at the time, I really saw just how much more their athletic department was able to offer the athletes, just in terms of facilities, resources. I think in terms of funding, they just had a little bit more funding from their alumni, from other stuff, and just the fact that they've been able to keep up with that. My sister went on a visit there when she was in the portal this past time, and just seeing, it's only been 2 years since I haven't been there, and just seeing the changes that they've already made to the program in the locker room. They returfed the field. It looks fantastic. And just seeing the support that they had for their athletes in terms of resources, but then also just academics. And it just felt like home. Like it felt like another home, which was really nice.
What was it like playing for your coach at Youngstown State? How was it different from Kent?
Two very different personalities, I feel like is one way to put it. Just the dynamics of the staff was completely different, honestly, and different in a good way. Just because I don't even honestly know. It was different. I think that the way that Brian and Josh and Anita, who she was an assistant I had for a very short period of time there, just the way that they handled us, it just at the time was what I needed, if that makes sense. It was a good environment, and I think in the short time that I was there, you really see what we were able to do as a program, because we went from never going to a conference anything. I think we had a winning record, first conference tournament appearance in school history, winning a conference tournament game, winning another conference tournament game, and then appearing in the Horizon League finals. I mean, from the start of that season, I can tell you straight up, I don't think any of us thought it was even possible, because we went into conference play, I think like 0-6, 0-7 at the time. We turned it around the last week of non-conference play.
Wow.
Which was insane. I honestly, I think I speak for everybody on that team. It was an amazing thing to be a part of, though. Amazing to be a part of history.
How does playing in the Horizon League differ from playing in the MAC?
Honestly, not that much. I would say that the conference competition, very similar, and during non-conference play, you play those schools all the time just because of geographics. So it wasn't uncommon for us to play Kent. I think I played Kent like 5 or 6 times in my time in Youngstown, just because we're only an hour from each other, and it's a good program. And just with the history that Kent State Soccer's had, like, it's a good program. You want to be able to compete with them. You want to be able to do well. And in my time that we were there, we were actually able, that was one of the games that was a turning point for us my junior season, was we knocked them off. And that was, I think, the first time in school history we had done that.
Wow.
So it was crazy.
What is one team in the Horizon League that Youngstown State just hates? Like, you go to play them and you're just like,
I think that anybody in the Horizon League would agree with me that it would probably be Milwaukee, on the sheer fact that that is a good program. They've always been historically good. You look at they've made however many NCAA tournament appearances. They beat Xavier a couple years ago in an opening round.
Wow.
They are a phenomenal soccer program. There's no doubt about it. And they're the team that you wanted to beat. So that game would always be kind of back and forth, chippy. I would say that anytime we played Cleveland State, usually would get a little bit too, just because it was always a really evenly matched game as well. But you want to beat the top dog, and it's always been Milwaukee.
Absolutely. You go into your last season at Youngstown State. You have another year of eligibility because of COVID, you mentioned. Mm-hmm. How did you play out that last year at Youngstown State? And were you thinking about using that other year, or were you like kind of done?
So I knew that if I could take my 5th year, I was going to take it. I knew that for a fact, just because it was something that we kind of had in a way taken away from us, just because that COVID season was so all over the place. And I knew that if it made sense for me to take it, I would figure out a way to academically make it work.
Sure.
And what ended up making my decision easy was I was just like, I'll just go get my master's. Like, who wouldn't want to go and get their master's, get another degree while playing? Like,
right.
Absolutely. And just when things started to kind of come down the wire, university was making some academic cuts. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, my program was on the list for that. And just there was a little bit of lessening resources. And I was speaking back and forth with my dean a lot, because I had him as one of my professors for one of my classes. And he just was like, hey, with what you want to do, this may not be the right fit for you. Sure. And that's fine. And because a lot of the classes I had taken in undergrad were dual enrolled, I had master's students in them, I couldn't retake them towards my master's degree, which kind of sucked. So I ultimately made the decision that I was going to enter the transfer portal again and pursue somewhere else for my master's, just because it just seemed like academically that made the most sense for me. And at the end of the day, college sports is fantastic. It's a great time for the 4 or 5 years that each athlete gets to do.
Sure.
But ultimately, what you carry through you the rest of your life is the experiences, but also the degrees, the networking, and everything else. And I just felt that my time there was done, and I needed to go elsewhere to accomplish that.
Absolutely. And you did end up finding a place elsewhere. You go play for Noreen over at IUP. How did you find IUP and Noreen?
So ironically, she's a coach at Akron, so I played against her for a couple of years before she ended up making the move over to IUP. And she is the epitome of, she knows that conference like the back of her hand. Mm-hmm. The PSAC is a grueling conference. Yes, it is a grueling conference. It's a difficult conference. It's very tough. One of the top Division II conferences across any sport ever. And she just knows it like the back of her hand. I mean, she played and coached at Mercyhurst. Mm-hmm. She coached at Slippery Rock. She's now back at Slippery Rock. She actually made it to Duke. Yep. And she's in the Hall of Fame at multiple schools. Mm-hmm. You don't just do that if you're a slouch coach, you know what I mean? So she was a coach that I was quite familiar with, just because of her being in the MAC at the same time that I was, but honestly was not one of the first schools I reached out to. I was looking very much elsewhere. I had reached out to her briefly, but I wasn't entirely sure if I wanted to go there or not. I was honestly all over the map looking at a variety of Division I and Division II schools. I decided that just for me, I felt that Division II would be a little bit of a better academic fit, especially once I did come to the decision that I was going to go play at IUP in the PSAC. At the time I was there, I feel like we could have competed with some smaller Division I programs for sure, because the group of girls that we had, especially this past year, phenomenal. Great. I mean, you don't make an NCAA tournament for the first time in 15 years with a slouch group of girls.
Absolutely.
So it was awesome.
What would you say? There's a little bit of a stigma, and I actually took this off on one of your TikToks.
Oh, no.
There's definitely a stigma of, I got to go play D2. Oh, I got to go play D3. What would you say, as somebody that played at D1 and made the jump to go play D2, what would you say to combat that stigma to people that are maybe trying to make that decision?
So I think that it really depends on what you're looking for in terms of a school, soccer, social, everything else balance of life, because I will say the one thing I absolutely loved about the conference I was in was how little we actually had to travel. When our furthest game was 3 hours to Gannon, it was a blessing.
Wow.
In comparison to our conference tournament being a 10-hour bus ride to Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And you get a different type of experience with playing Division I versus Division II. And one thing that I really liked and valued about it, especially with the conference that I was in, is I felt like I didn't lose anything in terms of soccer. It was still really competitive. It was still really high level. And I think that a lot of people are of the D1 or bust mindset. And I can't even lie to you, when I was in high school, I probably was a little bit in that too, but it was because I was the first one in my family who was looking at all this stuff. I didn't know what money and scholarships were available at other levels. We were very unfamiliar with a lot of the stuff. And I'm super blessed that I had the experiences that I had at the Division I level. I wouldn't trade that for the world, but I'm also so happy that I got to see the difference with Division II.
Sure.
Because I think we could have gone and competed with some other Division I schools with the team that I was with. And I think that that's something that people don't realize. You have your Power 5, now Power 4s, that they're kind of their own thing. That's usually where your national champion's going to come from. But once you kind of get down into your mid-majors, some of your mid-majors are equivalent to your top Division II and top Division III programs.
Definitely.
I've played over the summer and up in Pennsylvania last year, and one of the teams had a few girls from Carnegie Mellon on it. You go to a school like that, you're going there for your academics.
Definitely.
That's basically playing at a Division I level program with an amazing Division III academic infrastructure. And I think that one thing that a lot of girls can look at when they're going into this process is really just take it for what it's worth. You can have an amazing experience at just about any level. I forget what the running stat is. I think it's less than 7% of women's high school athletes go play in college at any level. That's including NAIA, that's including junior college. So just to even get to say that you play at that type of a level is huge.
Big deal.
It's huge. I can't speak for Division III, but I know that those kids work their butts off every single day too. And that they deserve as much pride as a Division I athlete does as well.
Absolutely. Talk about your last year IUP, such a special team. You make the NCAA tournament for the first time in 15 years. How impressed were you by that result? Obviously, you came in as on your third school. You may not have ever expected that to be a possibility.
Oh gosh, no. I mean, and one thing that I think is so valuable about Division II, especially coming from a mid-major, was you were playing for something completely different. When I was at Youngstown, you're playing to make a bid into the NCAA tournament, but you're going to play most likely in the first round and compete, but you're not going to go and win a national title. That's the reality. But you go and you play at Division II at some of these programs, you now have the opportunity to go play for a national title. With my sister going, she just committed to Grand Valley State. That is one of the highest soccer schools you can go to when it comes to Division II. 7 national titles. I don't even want to know how many regional titles they've won. An absolutely phenomenal program. And she's going to have the opportunity to go and compete for a national title. Now, after having even the small little taste that I had during my 5th year of being able to do that, I'm so excited to watch her prosper in that environment and to see what her and her future teammates can do there, just because it is super cool. Like, I never thought for a minute that we were going to be in that situation, because my senior year there, when I started grad school, I think we just missed out on qualifying to the conference tournament. Top 4 of the 9 teams win. We were 5th. It sucked. It was not fun.
That's rough.
Not fun, especially because we had a great first half of the year. We did not have a good second half of the year. And this past year, we went and we beat in out of conference school. We beat, who did we play? Oh my gosh. Yeah, I know. So we went and we played Frostburg State out in Maryland, and they are a very talented program. They've always been top notch, especially with going into the NCAA tournament. And we ended up knocking them off. And I remember Noreen mentioning that she was getting texts and calls from coaches saying, this is huge for the PSAC. Like, you go and you make results like that, they're going to pull more PSAC schools for an at-large bid. And we just kept winning, which is crazy. Our first loss was unfortunately my senior day, which sucked.
No way.
That was our first loss of the year. It was to Edinburgh. It was a 2-1 loss. We just did not come out the way that we needed to come out. It sucked, and we repaid them a visit and made sure that they knew that that shouldn't have happened the first time. We beat them 3-1 the second time around. And we just really, I don't know how to explain it, but the team chemistry that year was just great. It was something along the lines of what I experienced at Youngstown the year we went to the tournament, but better. I don't even know how else to put it into words, but it was such a memorable environment to be a part of. And being able to have an at-large bid, we were watching it. None of us knew if we were actually going to make it in when we had our watch party. So when our name got called, it was a great moment. It was a great moment. We got to travel down to West Virginia. So it sucked that we ended up losing in the first round, but just having that experience in general was amazing.
Absolutely. Aside from the NCAA tournament, what would you say your greatest takeaway from IUP was?
Greatest takeaway from IUP. Ooh.
Takeaway, experience, something that you'll just remember for the rest of your life.
Honestly, I would say the girls. Those are friendships that I'm going to carry with me throughout the rest of my life. Got to meet and play with some of the most amazing people ever there. And I just really didn't know what I was going to be walking into when I showed up there for my first day of preseason, just because it was a completely new and an uncharted territory. I had no idea what to expect. And those girls brought me in like family and allowed me to kind of go into more of a like leadership type role my 5th year. And just the leadership group that we had with our 5th years in our senior class was just absolutely amazing. And we were able to take a team that we didn't know what we were going to be able to do with it and go and do something great with it.
Absolutely. My favorite teammate of yours is Kata. I picked her up from the airport one time. It was funny. She brought me chocolate from another country. It was
I
cool.
freaking love her. I freaking love her.
It's a good story. So a big thing I wanted to talk to you about is something that not anybody else I'm going to be able to have on really is going to be able to touch on to the level that you are at. That is NIL. Let's start with Tik Tok straight up. Let's start with TikTok. Your TikTok went from just a normal college kid's TikTok to thousands of followers and thousands of engagement, likes, comments. Where the hell did that come from for you?
I honestly can't even give you like an explanation there. Just because NIL was such a new space. I think it got passed my sophomore year in 2021 was when they actually ruled on the legislation saying that like you can make money off your name, image, and likeness. And as somebody who was at a smaller Division I school, I had to usually explain where I went to school to people that I was out of state because nobody knows where Youngstown, Ohio is, and that's okay. Or that sometimes it's even in Ohio, depending on who you ask. So I just didn't think it was something that I was going to even be able to benefit off of. I was like, oh, this is great for the athletes that are playing college football at Ohio State and LSU, but not thinking that I could even have a remote, like, I don't even know, like, if impact's even the right word, like a little dabble into the space, if you will, just because it was so unknown. Nobody knew what it was going to turn into, and where it's at today is not where I imagined it was going to be 4 years ago. So I just honestly was posting stuff like normal, following trends, doing whatever, because I was like, oh, this is fun. I started honestly taking it a little bit more seriously my sophomore spring, just because I had dealt with a couple of injuries that spring. So I think I played in 1 game that spring season just because I was battling both my ankle and my knee. And it was something that allowed me to kind of feel a little bit more connected back to the sport, just because I was on the sideline doing rehab at 6 a.m. practice. It's not fun. No. It's not fun at all. And I just posted a couple of days in the life of like, oh, like day in the life of a mid-major Division I athlete. And I posted one video I remember distinctly at 9 p.m. I went to bed because I had to be up at 4:45 to get to rehab. And I woke up the next morning and the video had 200,000 views. Wow. And I was like, there is no way that this many people would have watched my day. It's not that interesting. But from there, I was like, whoa, okay, this is not what I expected. I was very shocked, and I was like, wow, so maybe this is something I can actually do and share, because I've always loved the idea of content creation. I've always thought that it's super cool, a super unique way to express yourself, and a super just fun way to kind of share a piece of my life with somebody else's. And from there, I just continued to push out content and started to kind of see a little bit of a following. I honestly can't even remember when I hit 10K. It might have been exactly a year from around when that happened. It was sometime during my junior year. And just seeing that and knowing that there was that many people that were supporting me is absolutely insane. I can't even put into words how thankful I am for that, because it's given me so many opportunities that I never thought somebody like me at the school that I was at was going to be able to be a part of. But one thing I absolutely loved about Youngstown was they really pushed the NIL envelope. They wanted us to be involved in any way that we could be. We were working with Open Doors as kind of our like management group to kind of orchestrate deals and to make sure that we were following with legislation. And from there, I've had the opportunity to work with some absolutely amazing people and brands and to be alongside athletes that I never even thought that my name would be in the same room as, which is absolutely insane.
What would you say your craziest NIL experience has been? We'll talk about NIL Summit for sure, but if it came from NIL Summit, that's okay too.
Oh, man. I mean, just from NIL and content creation in general would just be seeing the impact that I've somehow had on some people's lives, which is frightening to think about because I'm like, wow, like it's just me. Like, I don't think like that serious. Like, I'm like, yeah, I'm posting things, but I'm like, this is just my life. Like, I don't know. And I'm so blessed that it's been able to touch people and to actually like impact people. I remember one of my friends, she transferred out to school for grad school as well from Youngstown. And she made a comment that one of her first days of preseason when she was there, one of her teammates followed me and was like, oh my gosh, like you're like friends with her? Like, that's crazy. And I'm like, and she's like, huh? Like, yeah, like I'm just friends with her. Like, what are you talking about? So just kind of seeing the impact that I've had on other athletes. And I know it's not an insane impact. It's not huge. I'm not somebody with millions of followers, but just even in the thousands, it's absolutely mind-blowing. Like, I still can't even put words for it because it's absolutely amazing. Like, I had another one of my friends I played summer with. She said that a couple of her students were like dumbfounded because she posted a picture like with me on like something completely separate. And they were like, oh my God, you know her? Like, I follow her on TikTok. Like these students that she's currently teaching in school. And I'm like, oh my gosh. First of all, tell them I said hello because that's awesome. I never thought that like little instances like that would even mean so much for me because it's just the reach that you can have online is just monumental. You can't even put it into words.
Absolutely. How did NIL Summit come to be? Talk about what NIL Summit is, first of all, and how did you become a part of it?
So the NIL Summit is something that the student athlete organization, they put together an event down in Atlanta, Georgia. We were at the College Football Hall of Fame, and they really just transformed kind of the ultimate event to network, to meet other people, to inspire, to have just a whole array of people in the space come together and just meet. So I would have to look. So let me think. So I ended up getting nominated somehow through my school to attend this. And I went with one of my friends on the basketball team, which was super fun. We flew out on the same flight, spent the whole weekend. And the two of us, we were like, knew each other, but I would say we actually became friends by going on the trip. She's somebody that I do reach out to and still keep in contact every now and then. And I just never thought that I would be in the same space as even some of the people that I was meeting there. I'm like, oh my God, like I've seen you and I've seen you online and I've seen you online and well, okay, like this is, I felt like I did not deserve to belong in that room because I'm wearing my little Youngstown lanyard. And some people did recognize the school, which blew me away just because,
like you said, people around here don't even.
I'm like, it's just like I'm meeting people that go to Auburn and meeting people that go to like LSU and Clemson, all these huge schools that have huge platforms. And I'm in awe because every single individual that I met at that summit was so down to earth, so nice, so amazing. These people, these content creators are absolutely amazing. So, which is just something I never thought I'd be in the room and be in the space with, but I got to meet so many people. I got to meet with so many brands, and they had brands specifically come on and put together little like lectures and experiences and different things that you could just network with and do. Like Lululemon, I remember put on an entire topic of just being able to build your own brand. We had Meta there from Instagram talking. We knew about Threads before it launched.
Wow.
I'm like, what am I doing here? Like, what is little old me doing here? Because it just insane. Like, I'm so thankful that I got the chance to go and experience that. And Youngstown was a huge reason as to why I was able to have that experience. And it was very life-changing. And I really felt that it helped me curate my content even a little bit more, because after attending the summit, to now, I believe I've more than doubled what I had on both Instagram and TikTok.
Wow.
Just because of the little pointers and tools, and just, it was very inspiring to be there as well. And just to be able to work off of people and just see what other people have done in the space as well.
What was your biggest takeaway from the summit?
Honestly, is like dumb as it sounds, just like it was just inspiring. Like I think that was one thing that really stuck with me, was just how unforgettable of an experience it was. We really had the opportunity to just create content and learn off of brands, learn off of each other. But then also I love supporting everybody's content who I met then. And I love seeing when they comment on my stuff, because it just really shows how much of a community there is there.
Absolutely. Before we get ready to wrap up, one of the last questions I have for you is sometimes there's negative stigmas around NIL. You're somebody that's benefited from it at a smaller school and obviously taken a lot of things away from it. Some people say, oh, NIL, this is terrible for college sports. Oh, this is so bad. It's making it so going pro doesn't even matter. What would you say to combat the negative stigmas of NIL?
It's hard, because I think that in the NIL that I got to experience in school, it's very different than what it's going to be shaping into, because there are going to be some negative implications to it. I think the best example of this right now is St. Francis. They announced randomly on a random day of the week that they were going to go from Division 1 to Division 3.
After their basketball team was just in the
basketball
NCAA
team
tournament.
made the NCAA tournament. Their women's softball team just made the NCAA tournament. Their football team beat Kent State, an FBS school. That's a huge deal when you're an FCS school. And now they're being rewarded by going Division 3. And it just sucks, because some of these schools they know they're not going to be able to keep up with these bigger infrastructures of schools and programs and just money. And that's the part that I'm not a fan of. And I really hate to see that, because I think it is going to ultimately take away experiences from student athletes. But in terms of, I think, the branding and being able to make money off of yourself outside of the schooling environment, there is a market there. And I've had the opportunity to experience that. I've gotten to work with Aquaphor. I've gotten to work with CVS. Why on earth would I be working with either of those things? I don't know. They thought I was pretty cool, I guess. And I think that little instances like that are so cool and so rewarding. And I want that to be what the face of NIL is, not what it's going to turn into in terms of being able to buy out players and get them to transfer to other schools just because you have the money to do so. I think that really does ruin the amateurism that college sports is. And you're not going to see that occur in some of your other sports, like women's soccer, that's not considered a revenue sport at most schools. You're only going to be seeing that really in your footballs and basketballs from now on. And it's going to be a shift to kind of see how college sports are really, truly impacted by this occurring, because I think that your smaller mid-majors are going to be the ones that really take the biggest hit from this.
Definitely. Last two questions for you before we wrap up. First one is, where can the listeners, the viewers, find you on social media to see all this content? And second one, I always ask everybody to any shout outs you want to give to anybody that's helped you along the way throughout your entire journey.
Oh man, I'd be here for like 10 years if I was here for shout outs. I mean, obviously my family, I wouldn't be anywhere without any of them. They've been my biggest supporters since day one. I would like to shout out literally every single coach I've ever had in college soccer, from Noreen to Brian to Rob. You guys, from the good days to the bad days, have made me the person that I am through and through. I'd like to shout out to all of my friends in every single school, at IUP, at Youngstown, at Kent, and especially my friends back home here. It's been such a blessing even just being back home and being able to see them more. And they've always been my biggest supporters. And I just can't even imagine having I just can't even imagine a world without any of them. And just to everybody who's ever supported me online. And it's been such a transition for me to shift my content from college soccer into just the rest of my life, because I still don't even know what I'm doing. I'm taking it kind of just day by day, post-grad life, and getting back into the sport, playing over the summer. But obviously it's never going to be the same, but sometimes that's a good thing. So just everybody that even tunes into anything. So you guys can find me. My Instagram is my name, Julia Csernyik. It's a really fun last name. And my TikTok is Julia_CSER. So that's kind of where I'm active the most.
Awesome. Julia, thank you so much again for your time today.
Thank you so much for having me. I really
Anytime.
appreciate it.
Long time coming. And once again, Breaking Lanes podcast is presented by Robby Vallarelli and the Visual Kingdom, Kronis Academy, and assistant producer Dan Groen. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. perfect.
Woohoo! Tyler works here now. It literally makes my day.
She's funny.
I freaking love her.
Yeah.
She was one of my first club goalkeepers ever.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. Yup.